All right, everybody, I wanted to come out with my before the season finale review of The Last of Us. So we have the 9th and final episode this evening, and I wanted to get my season review out before that. And then tomorrow, I am going to talk about the final episode specifically and where the overall season ranks by the end. But as of right now, I will tell you that this is, without question, the best video game adaptation of any property ever. That doesn't mean they follow the source material closely, though. I mean, it is close, but it's not exact. And in fact, in some of these episodes, they have made some creative choices that in some cases have made the story much, much better. Now, I want to go off of my I believe it was the third episode review that I did that got everybody up in arms with the storyline with the two guys. And boy, I had to shut down my comments in that. And, you know, I told everybody it was propaganda, and that's exactly what it was, because the writer came out within days of that episode being released and said we wanted to trick everybody into seeing it. That was the whole point. And it was unnecessary for the show, and I still stand by that. There's no question about it. They wasted a whole episode on those guys, and it was completely unnecessary. And in fact, Joel makes a decision later in the season that had he really taken what he was supposed to get from that relationship to heart, that decision would have never happened. So it's kind of a conflict in the story. Now, at the end, I made a tweet for that next episode that I was going to review and decided to hold off until the end of the season, where I told everybody I was offended by the newest episode. And what I meant by that was at the end, they have the interviews with the actors and the filmmakers. And in that episode, I found out that Bella Ramsey was actually British. She's not American. And I thought that was called cultural appropriation. I don't know how somebody who's not an American can play an American. I thought we had gotten past all that, and only if what you identify as or are, you can play. Those are the funny nuances of the way Hollywood works. But I digress. She actually does a great job in her part. And let's look at these episodes. We're going to go through each one. I'm going to do a quick, just my feelings on each of the episodes. I'm going to take us over to a list here, and then I'll have my review for the final episode tomorrow. All right, so where my review left off was the long time review. You then had Please Hold to My Hand, which was the fourth episode in the season, which was good. This is probably the one that followed the game the closest and had a very good feel, where Joel ends up encountering a group of people in Kansas City and ends up having to deal with their rebel leader, which was, that was just the beginning of how they ended up there. And then that trailed into Endure and Survive, where Joel and Ellie meet up with a man and his son. And this was in the game. And you could see in this that the son was Sam and the brother was Henry. It's brothers, not a father and his son. I don't know why I even said that. They're brothers. And what was interesting here was in the game, they were in there, but in the show, they made Sam deaf. And wow, what an incredible job by both of these guys. Lamar Johnson was phenomenal as Henry, and Kevon Woodard was amazing as Sam. And I found out, watching the making of afterwards, that Kevon is actually, he is actually deaf in real life. And I thought that added a weight and just a very interesting dynamic to the show that felt it made it a little more intense, which was pretty cool. You had some acting in here by Melanie Linsky as Kathleen. She was ruthless in there. Same with Jeffrey Pierce. Now, one thing that's interesting about this show is we're going to, the last episode, episode 8, had another bad guy in it. And they've gone through several major bad people in this season where they were kind of one-off episodes, which is interesting because if you watch The Walking Dead, they will trail, these bad guys off for an entire season. And they are not doing that with The Last of Us. They're just running through it like you would in the game, which is interesting. All right, so let's see what the next episode was here. So we had, that was episode 5. And then in episode 6, it says, after ignoring the advice of locals, Joel and Ellie descend deeper into dangerous territory in search of the Fireflies and Tommy. And yes, this is where they do end up in the village where Tommy is, and this had a great look to it, and it was a pretty fun episode. Joel and Ellie end up, having an issue with some people there, and Joel does get stabbed, which is interesting. And I'd forgotten that in the game, and honestly, I played this game like 5 years ago, and I'd forgotten a lot of what happened. I do remember this village, though, where Tommy was, and it was interesting to see them bring it to life on screen. And then you had the episode Left Behind, where this has to do with the DLC that came with the game. This Left Behind episode was not part of the game, the original game. It was downloadable content that came after, and I never played it. So this was interesting. I never went back to play that. I was burned out when I got done with the game. But I will tell you that we had, Bella Ramsey did an incredible job, and this girl, Storm Reed, played Riley. And they did have a love affair in this episode. And this episode is how you do it right. And, I talked about that third episode was overdone and forced on the audience. This was not. This is how you do it naturally. And this is as good as you're going to get. They did a phenomenal job. Both the acting by Bella and by Storm was incredible. You really felt that they had something for each other. And it was a heartbreaking episode, but it was really well done. But it completely pulled you away from the narrative of the show. And it had an interesting feel. We got to see a little bit of Ellie before all of this, before all the stuff with Joel and everything went down. So they did an incredible job. Oh yeah, she was in I just got done watching The Suicide Squad the other day and didn't realize that was her as well. So she did a great job in the show. So then that leads us to last week's episode, which was by far the best episode of the season, When We Are in Need. This is where we find a vengeful another group of people out in the wilderness. Now, here's one thing I'm going to knock the show on. They made them out to be Christian zealots, all right? And I don't know what it is with Hollywood just going after Christian people. This could have been any group of people. They did not have to put any type of designation on it, especially when they're being led by a guy like this. So we had Scott Shepherd play David, and oh my gosh, what an incredible role. So this was interesting. We also had Troy Baker in this episode as James. And for people who don't know, Troy Baker was the original voice of Joel in the 2 games that they did for The Last of Us 1 and 2. And it was interesting to see him play someone else. And it was interesting to see him on screen. I've never seen him actually in an acting role before, but this is him right there. That is actually the voice actor who played Joel. And he's an incredible voice actor. He also played Batman in the Telltale series. And he did a great job. Had no idea it was the same guy. So he's a great voice actor. Follow him on social media. So what was interesting is they made a change in this episode, and this is where I think it actually helps the story a little bit, where Ellie actually had to save herself at the end of this episode. And it was phenomenal the way it played out. We find out that this group is cannibals, that David is eating the people there because they're hungry, they need food, and they're using humans as a source of food. And he actually wanted to, he was a pedophile. He was a disgusting individual. He was hiding under the guise of being a Christian. And this is what I don't understand about Hollywood. They're trying to paint every Christian as being bad, and that is just not the case. But the rest of the people in this group, minus the people that were around David, were actually good people, but they were just starving and they were being held back. And there were some interesting scenes in there where they didn't have a lot of food, and when they ate, they would do a prayer, and he had a lot more food on his plate than his followers. And it was just gut-wrenching to watch. It was gut-wrenching to watch the scenes like when he has to interact with Bella while she's being held, Bella Ramsey, as Ellie. When Ellie is being held captive and David is in there trying to coax her to be a part of their group, there were some gut-wrenching scenes in there, and they really pushed the limits. And you felt a desperation like we haven't felt in the season at all. And it just goes to show that people are worse than the creatures in this world. It was the same in The Walking Dead. It's what it turns people into is more of the theme, and that definitely is the case in The Last of Us as well. Now, here's something interesting about this final episode that's going to be on tonight. They came out, and Bella Ramsey made the comment the other day that the finale is going to massively divide the fans. And I don't know exactly what that means. The ending is pretty cut and dry in the movie or in the game. There's no political agenda. I don't know what they could do that is going to divide the audience, because the end of the game is pretty much the end of the game and left it's one of the things I do remember from playing through, while playing through the game, was definitely the end. Like there's just a desperation at the end that is just incredible. And I hope they're able to recreate that, and we'll find out how that episode ends up. But I will do a recap and a review tomorrow. But as of right now, out of 5, I would give this 4.5, almost 5 stars. If they didn't do the propaganda stuff, I think I'd be more apt to give it a full 5 stars. But the production value on this is amazing, and it's setting the bar for any future adaptations from games. So as it stands right now, I give it 4.5 out of 5 stars, and we'll see how this final episode, ends up when it airs later today, which I will be watching it, and I will be doing a review on it tomorrow. I do appreciate it. We'll see you on the next video.